Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. It's March 4th. It is 6:02 p.m. The mayor is attending remotely. However, he feels it's appropriate to have the meeting chaired by somebody in person. That person is me. I'm Paul Mayo, council president. I'd like to inform everybody I will be voting on agenda items. We'll start the meeting out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Barb, would you please read the open meeting statement?
Sure. This meeting and all meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes, so the citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
Thank you, Barb. Please take roll.
Sure.
Roll, please.
Mayor Smith,
Here.
Colin Dykstra,
Here.
Paul Hagan,
Here.
Eric Helverson,
Here.
Dimitri Martin,
Here.
Paul Mayo,
Here.
Corey Nagel,
Here.
Eric Olson,
Here.
Dave Peterson,
Here.
Scott Berchatsky,
Here.
Henry Veliker.
Here.
10 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Barb. Would you start the staff introductions, please?
Sure. Barb Nowak, City Clerk.
Aaron Jensen, City Administrator.
Stephanie Wright, Finance Director.
Justin Behrens, Director of Public Works.
Laura Colbert, Parks and Rec Director.
Pete Krager, Chief of Police.
And we have Josh Werner in the control room. Next up, we have the approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an accumulation of items that we decide on with one vote. If anybody would like something removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda, now is the time to make that request. If not, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Olson, second by Peterson to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the regular agenda. We have one addition, the handout for the presentation we're going to be experiencing tonight. With that in mind, I would need a motion to approve the regular agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who moved? Moved by Martin, second by Hagan, to approve the regular agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, we have public input. If somebody has anything to say on a non-agenda item, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less on non-agenda items. No? Okay.
Pat's there. Pat is there.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. We do have Pat Cuellar to say something about the summer concerts. Pat.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to propose that the Waupaca Bandstand be used by the city band for their summer concerts. The Waupaca Bandstand was built in 1898 for the cost of $275. It's been referred to as Waupaca's trademark. It was restored and added to the Waupaca Register of Historic Places in 1997. It has been used for many events, including a nationally broadcast speech in 1980 given by presidential candidate Ronald Reagan. The city band played concerts there for over 100 years. The reconstruction on Main Street from Badger to Granite Streets had several goals. Among them, help the city attract more customers, see new businesses open, make people want to spend more time in the community, create a vision and destination for downtown, make it so beautiful that people want to come downtown, make people want to get out of their cars. The street reconstruction began in April of 2021. Because of the construction on Main Street and to accommodate both the band and the audience with the need for space because of the pandemic, the city band concerts, Friday night concerts, were relocated to South Park. Those concerts were from June 18th, 2021 through July 30th, 2021, from 7 p.m. until 8 p.m. They're still being held there. Few tourists that enter or leave Waupaca on Main Street go south of Junction Street to South Park. New restaurants have opened recently downtown, and a distillery will open soon. We now have Granite Cellar, Doc Kelly's, Mexico Grill and Bar, and the Empty Barrel Distillery will be opening very soon. More retail places have also opened since 2021. Last summer, the city tried having stores open till 7 o'clock Friday evenings on June 20th, July 18th, and August 15th with food trucks and a bit of music. I went to all of them. They were not very well attended. The retail stores that were open saw very little traffic. If the city band played at the bandstand, shops could be open concert Friday nights until 7. People might have dinner and do some shopping before the concert. A friend of mine told me that a big reason to keep the concerts in South Park was so that kids could use the playground equipment. I sat at the concert March 12th, 2024, last summer, with a friend. It was a beautiful summer night. We looked over as the band started. There were no kids playing. So I decided to take a picture. I took a picture at 7:10, 7:24, and 7:52. There were no children playing on the equipment. I sent the pictures to Mayor Smith. So let's bring the city band back to the bandstand and support our local downtown businesses. That's it.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay.
Okay. We have no unfinished business, but we do have some new business. First up is a presentation from Chain Exploration Center students. Aaron, you want to set this up?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And Pat, thank you. I want to let you know that I'm probably the staff member that has the most communication with the band director. Certainly we'll take this, and yes, I know she's actually here, so this worked pretty well. So we'll have conversations moving forward. Thank you. So I have had conversations also with Mr. Ty Natsky, who's a teacher at the CEC. I was able to go visit a class of his a couple weeks ago when the students were working on these projects. City council members, if you remember, now I thought it was last year, but it's already been 2 years ago that I believe it was your class, Ty, right? That came and gave presentations on climate migration. And there's going to be similar presentations tonight, and we look forward to getting these things started. So, Ty, anything you want to add?
I do. Yeah, I've got a short introduction just to give some context about what we've been doing. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen and consider our proposals of the 7th and 8th graders at the Chain Exploration Center. My name is Ty Natsky, and I've got the privilege to work with these creative and hardworking students before you. Somewhere over here, too. The presentations you're about to hear are a culmination of learning about migrations within the United States and immigrations, both historic and modern, around the world. We've studied Earth's spheres and how human-caused climate change impacts natural disasters and how those natural disasters in turn impact the people that live in the affected areas. The students were directed to develop a plan to encourage people impacted by climate change to move to Waupaca, as Wisconsin is uniquely insulated from the worst of climate change, rising sea levels, powerful hurricanes, wildfires, and other natural disasters strengthened by rising temperatures. However, you'll notice that not many groups mention these populations, as they have discovered that helping people in the community with the most need helps every member of that community. By making the city better for the people moving here, we'll make the city better for ourselves. If you or anyone listening is interested in pursuing any of these plans proposed, I encourage you to reach out. Seventh and eighth graders are busy people. We're learning how to solve equations and be kids. And we also lack the expertise, experience, personal connections, and political standing you have to enact change. These proposals are starting points to create conversation and inject new ideas into the community. Please do not consider these novel plans proposed by students, but goals of the younger generation of community leaders that they want to achieve for their hometown. Thank you for inviting us into your chambers and taking the time to listen. I hope you enjoy it. And first, I'd like to introduce Adeline and Teresa, whose directive was to increase the accessibility to education. Also handed out were some brochures and some other materials related to most of the groups.
And Adeline, don't be shy to tell me when to move if I'm not keeping up, and that goes for all of you students. Don't be afraid to bark out directions to me.
Hello, so good evening. Before we start, just imagine a world where everybody was hardworking and they chase their dreams and strive for success. It'd be a pretty great world, wouldn't it? I'm sure at some point in your life you've thought, wow, our world could really be a lot better, a lot more solid. So what if everybody valued working hard, sticking to their dreams, and striving for success?
That will be great. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Teresa, and my partner Adeline and I want to use reading at home as a way that kids in our community can learn those things throughout an accessible and convenient program, City of Waupaca Book Bundle. We have noticed there are various statistics and that literacy scores in the U.S. are going low.
According to the U.S. News and Reports, over 7% of high school students in Waupaca drop out at some point during their 4 years at the Waupaca High School.
Many people don't value reading after high school. Literacy Inc. has said that 33% of people don't read after high school.
And since a lot of kids get role models from their parents, this teaches the future generations that reading at home is unnecessary and that literacy really isn't something you need to focus on during your childhood and eventually adulthood. 56% of adults claim that they read less than 10 books per year, which is less than one book every month and a half. So to combat this, we want to start a program called Book Bundles. It will basically be a program that through a team of volunteers, we are delivering books to children that are in that pre-K age to promote and increase the value of reading in our community.
The books will be inside of a waterproof bag that will be left at the front of your house. Book bundles will have around 6 books inside of each bag.
So when a family signs up for the book bundles, they will have the opportunity to choose for it to be delivered once, twice, or 4 times per year.
Loss of damage can result in a fee that will be around $10. Our objective is to bring the culture of reading back into the families of our community.
This program would aim to serve ages 0 through 5, which is the pre-kindergarten population. Basically, our goal is just to get that reading into homes early so that they can jumpstart it once they join kindergarten.
We really want to see a growth in the reading levels of Waupaca. After our program starts growing, these will help to lower young adults to stop thinking that reading is a necessary skill that does not matter, and to lower high school dropout rates.
So basically, the more valued reading is now, the more likely our kids will do those things like work hard and strive for success.
As our program gets going, some bare-bones rules are we will have a max of 50 signed-ups at the start of our program. All books must be returned when the next book bundle arrives in new or gentle use condition. When you signed up, you must agree to pay a fee for lost or damaged books.
To get this project up and running, some key tasks that would have to be taken are
finding volunteers, start a book drive, applying for grants and getting bags, getting up websites and promotion.
Of course, it's next slide. Of course, it's probably not always going to be smooth sailing. So some problems that might be encountered throughout the implementation of this program include not getting enough volunteers right away. To combat this, we would really just have to slow down the program and kind of focus on that promotion as we grow. Another one would be if we don't get enough books. Holding book drives throughout the year would be the solution to that, periodically, like every few months or whenever is needed. I know the fire department, police department, and public library often hold family events, and we can partner with them to kind of get our program up and running. For the business side, obviously, like pretty much everything, this will take a little bit of money.
We're going to have a budget that will be around $500 to buy the waterproof bags. We can get the money by applying for state or city grants. Now, some delays we might face are not getting enough volunteers. We already went over this, and we already talked about the solution.
Yeah, so some boosts, if we're thinking optimistically, are we get a bunch of volunteers, bunch of books right away, and we can really jumpstart our program a lot sooner. Hopefully this program could be done in the next few years. It shouldn't take a super long time to get it started. The next steps would be to start collecting books and volunteers, as well as applying for grants and start promoting our project.
Our final goal is for our kids to learn how to chase their dreams, work hard for what they want, and succeed.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to share.
Colin?
I'll give you a question. Oh, excuse me. I'll give you a question. Usually I talk so much I don't have a frog in my throat, but I did today. One of the things that we've learned as a city council and as a team of professionals here as the department heads is to collaborate and work with other organizations that are doing something similar to what we're doing. I think you've got a terrific idea. Another program that happens in the area, which has had some success, I think, is called Project Backpack. And one of the ways you might jumpstart your book bundle is to include a book bundle with a Project Backpack on I believe it goes out on the weekends. And that might be an idea to try and collaborate with a program that's already there and follow up with this terrific idea.
I know the Waupaca Learning Center is doing a similar project with books for elementary age kids.
Very good, guys. Our library director is not feeling well, so it would have been perfect, but good thing we're recording this. We'll make sure he sees it. So,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, and I should have said this right away, and the first group did a great job, but that mic, just so you guys know, you are on Facebook Live. And then our mayor, who's joining virtually, it'd be really helpful if you could speak into that mic as close as you can. So, thank you.
Imagine this. You're homeowner Joe. You live out in the middle of nowhere. You don't have any friends, and you want to have a barbecue. But you don't have any friends to invite to your barbecue, and you have a massive amount of land, but you only use a little bit of it. With our solution, you'll be able to have friends for your barbecue and a use for your unused land.
So,
Back? Sorry. Oh,
No.
oh, hold on. How do I go back? There we go.
so our idea is implementing affordable housing in Waupaca to create more accessibility for housing in Waupaca. So this is going to be pitched by me, Jonathan Ryer.
Ezra Woodliff and our fellow person was Rocky Beasy, but he came down with something nasty and couldn't make it tonight. Okay. So the problem that we're facing is there's not enough affordable housing in Waupaca. So yes, if you look for houses in Waupaca, you're probably going to find one. But what you're going to find are, your $1 million houses that are on the chain. I personally don't have $1 million. Do you have $1 million, Sean?
No.
No, I don't either. So we need affordable housing in Waupaca. So what we need to do is create affordable housing. So is housing necessarily a massive issue in Wisconsin right now? No. But is it a nationwide issue? Yes. So if we create a supply for the incoming demand for people moving to a more stable climate because of climate change. It's going to be better off for all of us. And if you got more houses and more people, then that means more people spending money at the local businesses, and that means a boost in economy. Next slide.
So the scope of this project is going to be to, of course, promote the sale of unused land. And basically what this is when you've got a giant lawn, you know, you say you've got one like 8 times the size of your house, you could sell that to whoever's going to buy it, and we could, that would be, you guys could create houses on that, which would in turn create more housing, and that would increase the demand for housing and stuff like that. And this would also give the landowner more money in their pocket. So this is just, you know, when you sell that land, you get money, of course, and that would give more money for the people who are selling the land. And this is going to be creating affordable housing for people who need it. As mentioned in the title slide, this is just people who are moving due to climate change, stuff like that, and that would create that housing for them. So we've got an example property. This is a house just kind of off of Main Street, and as you can see, they've got a nice little garage there, and they got a nice little house. It's kind of, but as you can see, the property lines, they got a lot of unused land there. So, and boom, they could sell maybe about 40% of their land, and you could create maybe a duplex on that. That would create a multifamily housing that would be stable and supplyable. And even you could subdivide that, and you could put two duplexes on that land, which would create even more housing for the people who need it. And this one's a bit of a reach, but if we really do need to, that would be a lot of housing off of just 40% of that guy's land.
Okay, so steps and timeline. There's not necessarily a set time for this to start. It's just kind of as soon as we start getting people who want to reach out for this idea, then we can start it. So basically the first step is getting a partnership with a local construction company, and there's plenty around in Waupaca, so that shouldn't be difficult. Then it's the construction company actually building the houses, which shouldn't be hard because that's what they do. Then we have finding tenants, which also shouldn't be hard because there's a demand for that. And then, you know, we can reflect on how the process went and in order to keep doing this. Yeah.
So costs. This is there's a multiple costs of including building the houses, which hopefully we'll get you guys would get a partnership with one of the major construction companies in Waupaca, such as Falks Brothers or Melter. They're great options for that. So this is going to include the cost of getting the word out. So this is flyers, advertising at public libraries and the rec center in Waupaca, this like radio advertisements. That's all things that we could do, but that's going to be costs. That's costs money, of course, and waiving the rezoning fee. So when you sell your land, you got to have all this stuff to do with the government, and you've got to pay to have these property lines rezoned. So we would hope that we could, to influence these people to sell their land, you guys could waive that fee so it would influence them.
Okay, so we've got benefits. So more money for the landowner. Land in Waupaca goes, like unirrigated cropland goes for about $6,000 an acre, so that's how much you could sell that for around that area. And then neighbors to the landowner, like I stated before, you know, you got neighbors for your barbecue, right? And then more money for the city in the long term because you've got houses on that land, which means more taxes can be collected on that land. And then use for the unused land. Now, if you really think about it, lawns are a huge waste of resources. Because think about it, you spend all this time, you know, maybe you water it, you spray the pesticides, you got all the, maybe you're one of those people who like sprays the lawn green or whatever, and you spend all this time doing it. Did you know that the average homeowner spends 16 days of their life, that's over 2 weeks, just tending to their lawn? Imagine if you could cut that time in half. That's 8 more days of your life that you could be doing important things like sleeping, spending time with your children, doing pottery. The options are endless. Next slide. All right, why we picked this idea? Families in need. If you're a family who lost everything in a natural disaster, it'd be good to give you an affordable place to live and so you can get back up on your feet. Yeah, that relates to climate change. And then ease of implementation, we wanted to pick an idea that had the minimum cost for maximum effect. We felt this was a pretty happy medium between lots of effect and relatively low cost. And then, like we said, more money to the landowner. I mean, eggs are what, $8 a dozen? You know, who doesn't want more money? And then flexibility, you can build, there's a lot of possibilities with this idea, because you can have like a small single-family home all the way up to a small apartment complex, just depending on what is best for the land. Next slide.
So next steps, as mentioned before, it would be advantageous to organize a partnership with a construction company to build these houses, as it would be quite difficult to do it without a partnership. And getting the word out, this is just, as I stated before, flyers, radio broadcasting, advertisements, TV advertisements, advertising at public library and recreational center.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. If you have any questions or you'd like to reach out, you can contact us there. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, so we, I am Ethan Feely,
I'm Sam Oddie.
and we would like to introduce a bike library into the city of Waupaca. Slide. Okay, so currently transportation in Waupaca is sparse, which means that the most common way of transportation is cars. So for the people that do not have cars, it would be difficult to get around. There are a decent amount of bike lanes, sidewalks, and crosswalks. There's a decent amount of sidewalks and crosswalks, but bike lanes are sparse, so we want to add more of those. Cars also may become more expensive, with materials like iron and aluminum becoming more expensive. Waupaca's values, like getting outside and hanging out with friends and stuff, may also be impacted by more using cars. So that's why we'd like to implement a bike library. Next slide. Okay, so the function of the bike library is basically you're going to go to the actual library and then ask for a bike. Then they're going to bring you over to the bike library checkout area. You're going to get your bike. The cost for just the bikes is going to be around $3,000 for around 30 bikes. We were hoping to get a partnership with Adventure Outfitters to fix up the bikes and repairs and stuff. We're also hoping to get this done in around a year.
30 bikes is a lot of bikes. We want to partner with the library as a checkout system, so people will go to the library to check out bikes. We're obviously not going to house 30 bikes in the library. The library is used for people and not bikes. So where are we going to put this bike storage area? Well, we want it to be somewhere populated, likely downtown, since downtown is where a lot of stuff happens, like events and whatnot. It also needs a lot of space. So like I said, the library isn't a good space because people use it, but a garage, for example, something with a garage door will be good, because then people can wheel bikes in and out without having to use the front door. So I have heard that this garage is being used, but I think it would be a good idea. This is a great example of something that would be a good place to house the bikes, because it not only has one, but 2 garage doors, meaning that getting bikes in and out is even more efficient than it would be with just one garage door. And it's near the Danes Hall, which is on the edge of Main Street kind of area, so that people can access it really easily. With a bike library, we would need to create an open space which people can freely access the bike library. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Have enough bikes for several people to get around. We don't want to be limited to, just a few people being able to use this library bikes. We want to be able to have a lot of people using these bikes that maybe don't have bikes or aren't able to afford bikes. And finally, we want to be able to allow people to traverse the city efficiently and freely, since cars are bad for the atmosphere. We've known this for a while now. Bikes are not. They're powered by our feet, which doesn't create like much of any waste. So I think the next steps for this would be step one, to find an existing structure. Like I said, the garage comes to mind, and convert it into an ideal space refurbishment. So like we don't just want an empty shed housing all of our bikes. We want it to look good. Say, hey, I'm a bike library, and not just, hey, I'm a discarded, like, falling apart shack. We want it to be refurbished if we need it, and be an actual bike library. Next up, set up bike donations. That means we have to buy less bikes, so people could donate bikes if they have, bikes that in their shed or in their garage that they're not using. Then they could donate it to the bike library, and that would get a lot more use out of the bikes, and also frees up space in their shed. And then obviously purchase 30 bikes. We plan on subtracting the donations from that. So like if 12 bikes are donated, that would be 18. Yeah, 18. 18 bikes would have to be bought. If 12 bikes are donated, then 18 bikes would have to be bought, and that totals to 30. And it also is a better way to get bikes instead of just straight up buying them. And finally, we would have to advertise so that people know about the donating system and the borrowing system. And speaking of the borrowing system, that's probably the actual last step, is setting up the borrowing system so that people can borrow the bikes. Questions? Comments? Feel free to contact us. Our emails are on the screen. If you have anything you want to tell us about or ask us about now's a great time to do so. If you think of something later, like I said, our emails are right there. Thank you.
So, the cause for Boys and Girls Club. I'm Landon Albrecht.
And I'm Brian Kalinsky.
Today we want to implement Boys and Girls Club here in Waupaca. 7.7 million kids and teens are alone and unsupervised after school.
Nearly 25 million don't have access to after-school programs.
So, America currently is in a loneliness epidemic. Teens are getting, as of 2021, teens are getting 4+ hours of screen time daily. So we want more social, physical, and educational opportunities for the youth. What we can do, we want to start a Boys and Girls Club here in Waupaca, keeping it affordable to all families. So what is a Boys and Girls Club? Well, imagine this. You and your spouse both work full-time, and your kid can't afford, or you can't afford to get a how do I put this? Can't get your kid into after school stuff, and you're the kid's alone, and what they would do, they would be on a phone or on a computer. So Boys and Girls Club would offer things like after-school childcare, homework help, physical activities, social, mental, and physical opportunities, all at an affordable price. So what can you expect? Affordable after-school care, a place for physical, mental, and social activity, and a place that accepts kids of all age. So what we want more economic and social benefits. A study was shown that every dollar invested into a club, $12.46 is returned to the community. that would offer like affordability, sustainability, and acceptance, and just staying in contact.
So, why should we do this? I got some I got some statistics from the BGCA website, which stands for Boys and Girls Club of America, and 92% of club teens expect to graduate high school, and 81% have plans to complete some kind of post-secondary education, such as college. And 1 in 5 regularly attending teens volunteer in their community somehow, whether it's with events, school, etc. And 86% of club youth say they can stand up for what's right, and 88% report that as a leader they want to make everyone feel important. So, here's our game plan. So, step 1, we want to contact the Boys and Girls Club of America. So doing this will ensure they recognize Waupaca as a city that wants to establish a Boys and Girls Club, and they could guide us through the formal process, because as we discovered with talking with Portage County, there is a formal process for making a Boys and Girls Club. And it should be easier for you guys, because they'll guide you through it. Our second step would be to conduct a community assessment, figure out what the community wants, and especially if there are any job opportunities, and we want to see who's interested. And in doing this, we would also get some gravity to, or get some interest behind the idea. Our third step would be to build a support network. We want to find locals who are interested, and the foundry or the chain. And we want to get in touch with different kinds of people, like city or state officials. And building the support network, we also get different kinds of funding. And something where funding could come from is somebody who wants to slap their name on a building. So our fourth step would be to develop a business plan. We want to be more exact, more specific. We want to have a timeline. And, well, it might be grueling and unfun. We would need a lot more numbers. And we want to make sure step 5 through 8 is exact as possible. So step 5 would be to secure funding and location. Like I said, we want to get some of those companies involved, whether it's big companies or individuals or local businesses. We could request grants, whether it's city grants, state grants, or the Beard Foundation. Now that foundation, it's based out of Milwaukee, and what that does is it provides grants for human services or educational purposes. So the BGCA would count as one of those. And for the location, it would either need to be a refurbished building or an entirely new building, because it would need things like a study room, a library, a kitchen, and other things like that to make children feel safe and that good environment. Step 6 would be to apply for a BGCA charter. That means that we are recognized and we are accepted. We get support from the BGCA and it becomes official. We officially have that relationship with Waupaca and the BGCA. Our 7th step would be staff and program development. It would provide a lot of volunteering opportunities for different age groups, and it could provide jobs to like the 19 to 24-year-old demographic, because 10.5% of all 20 to 25-year-olds in America are unemployed, and that's a pretty big number when you take into account America's population. And we could use that community assessment, like I said before, to figure out who would want to be involved with it, who would want to volunteer, and who would want to get a job. Finally, step 8, launch the club. Everything you've been working for, the business plan, the financials, staying in that constant contact, everything would be ready to go. We want to make it a big event, and especially throughout this whole process, steps 1 through 8, we want to get a bunch of excitement around that idea. We want to be like, hey, did you hear that there's going to be a Boys and Girls Club? Well, there's going to be, and we want to get all of that attention around it so it doesn't flop when we open it. So into the more specifics, for our timeline, we want steps 1 through 3, or basically establishing that contact or that support network and that community assessment done around 2026, but if we could get it done this year, that would be amazing. We want to get steps 4 through 8 done by 2028, and the reason, and everything I went through, it seems like it would take a while, but we'd also look into Portage County, and it didn't take them too long because they had guidance from the Boys and Girls Club of America, and that's why we believe we could get this done by 2030 at the very, very latest. Our budget will be through the foundation that I talked about, the grants, and local support. That local support will be very important for this project.
So for benefits, for more community development, like volunteering opportunities for like, especially for like middle school and high school students, that would be a good way for them to get like community service. More social interactions, good way to get like kids talking with other kids and like make more friends, and more events to like help people be happier. And education experience opportunities that are affordable and returns to the community. Like we said earlier, every dollar invested into the BGC, $12.46 is returned to the community and the individual. And that boosts the economy, like helping Waupaca in the long run. So for our next steps, we want to stay in contact with the BGCA. There's a formal process for that. And 2, contact Portage County. They already have a BGC and they would be good help starting our own. Conduct a community assessment and begin to formulate a plan of your own. Any questions or
Any questions or comments, and our contact information out there. So if you have a question later,
I just have a comment that I grew up in a city in Marinette, Menominee, and had a Boys and Girls Club, and it was an excellent organization. I went there often, and it was certainly a worthwhile thing to do. So I would certainly support your efforts.
and after, like, we had a lot of ideas, like, floating around us, but when we looked into this idea more, we realized this could actually really benefit Waupaca. We looked into other communities that had this, and we're like, hey, we could do this.
How long ago was the Portage County Club created?
We're not sure exactly, but what we do know is that it took less than a decade, less than 5 years. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
in a very short amount of time for something as big as this. And with Portage County, that means in that short time span, they got all the staff, they constructed the buildings. When you look into it, they got a whole new building. And that's why we believe this is 3 years a minimum.
Great job, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Blake, and this is Logan, and we're going to talk about the stress. Next slide. So imagine this. You're just a person taking care of your lawn, and then in the next day, you wake up to figure out that there has been a drought. And this isn't something that would just happen overnight. Right? This is happening when you have an elongated period of time without rain. And now this drought greatly affects your soil quality because you don't have enough water to tend to your garden, grass, or whatever you're using your water for. And now this causes your soil to become this sandy-like thing because, again, you're not tending to it and it's not getting the right care. And this is sandy-like soil is gonna cause it not to be the best for living plants like trees or if you have a garden, it won't be the best for your garden. And after this drought would end, no, go back. And after this drought would end, and if it were to storm and the soil was bad quality soil, your trees or plants will most likely uproot if there are any storms due to the soil not being strong and firm. Next slide. Our objectives. Our objectives is to prepare Waupaca for the uncertainty of the future by implementing this water barrel service throughout Waupaca. And we're going to implement this to help save water and maintain soil quality throughout periods of drought or lack of precipitation. And also, you could save money by using water barrels. You wouldn't have to be using your water for outside appliances like gardening, like I said, or even just watering your grass if you like to keep your lawn nice and clean. And again, being able to use water barrels in droughts. Next slide. Rain barrels. Now these rain barrels are multicolored rain barrels. They're usually 55 gallons, and we're gonna be dispersing them all through Waupaca, and weekly maintenance, just pushing the gunk off the top and then just using it for garden and lawn and trees, so you can maintain in the quality of these plants and no, not animals, just plants. So if there is a drought and there's a storm after that drought, it doesn't uproot because you're you're well maintaining to these things, so it keeps well quality.
So our plan is to implement water barrels onto people's houses. We would need some materials to do so. Each water barrels cost about $75 for 12, and we would need probably a store or a local space to store these water barrels. We would also have to have a time in spring where we get volunteers to bring these water barrels out to people's houses. And we'd need a time in fall where we could go out to those people's houses and flip the water barrels over for the winter so they don't frost. Next slide. Our next step would be to get the rain barrels and their hookups, or not their hookups as in like hoses and stuff, to find a store, to rent a truck for that weekend spring, because we'd need it to bring the water barrels to people's houses, get volunteers for that weekend spring, and then wait until the weekend fall to take them down for the winter. This would help in a plethora of things, like he said, droughts. So, thank you.
Nice job.
Hello, I'm Adelaide,
And I'm Lily.
and we have chose to tackle the healthcare problem in Waupaca, specifically in focusing on prenatal care.
So the closest hospitals to Waupaca County are in Stevens Point, Appleton, Shawano, and Neenah, which means the shortest drive to one of these hospitals is 35 minutes, and for some people, it can take over an hour to get to their doctor's appointments. And this adds a lot of miles onto cars because of the multiple appointments per month.
Our solution is to create a mobile clinic that is specifically catered towards prenatal care. We've seen many different rural communities have, and cities have, implemented this into their community, and it's been very beneficial. And that is a little diagram of an example of one that has been made.
Our objectives for this project is to make healthcare more accessible to pregnant women in Waupaca County. Our goals are to convert an RV for our mobile clinic, get proper tools and equipment, have doctors and nurses from Aspirus working in the mobile clinic full-time. Put a section in the Aspirus website where you can find information and sign up. Lastly, to travel around the county.
We think Aspirus is a good fit for a mobile clinic because they're located in Wisconsin and they have multiple clinics in Waupaca County and near Waupaca County. Aspirus has clinics in Waupaca, Amherst, Clover, and Iola.
and hospitals in Stevens Point and Wausau. And the little blue dots on the map are the stops on the route that our mobile clinic is going to take.
So, of course, RVs are very expensive, and definitely, especially when you have to do the renovations that are needed for to have a clinic on wheels. So it would be around $500,000 for the renovations and RV. For RV purposes, there's Rawhide Youth Services, which is a behavioral correctional place in New London, and part of what they do is they fix up cars, RVs, boats, stuff like that, and they auction them off. So that is a little bit of cheaper option to getting an RV. And then Aspires would, of course, handle the medical equipment and restocks and any supplies that would be needed. And we're thinking that the RV would be put into as one of the multiple different vehicles that you guys already have into for gas.
Looking into the future, we would like to expand the mobile clinic to be able to take other kinds of medical care. Some examples would be pediatric, eye care, dental, and physicals. We'd also like to partner with Portage County to have mobile clinics travel between both counties. Mental health. Our next thing was to implement a mobile mental health facility. Mental health is one of the biggest sections of medical care in Waupaca County that we don't have much access to. This is a very important thing to focus on because sometimes it can only take up to or over 4 months for some people to get the mental health care they need. Having mental health RV would build off the parental RV would be the next steps in boosting the mental health in Waupaca.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns or comments? Thank you.
Nice job, guys. I think that's it. That's the last slide I have, so I think that's it. I just want to make one comment. One thing I noticed out of all you guys did a great job of having eye contact with all of council. I feel like you really, really knew your material and did a great job presenting it. So all great ideas. We'll take some notes and we'll have some conversations. So thank you guys so much for all the work and for coming tonight.
Thank you all very much. Oh, Colin, go ahead.
I would add, if anyone's interested, we have an economic development director position that's available, and it might still be available when you guys are able to fill it.
That group of housing density. There we go.
This was really terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gee, Dan.
Okay, we'll move on. We have item number 2 under new business, approval of state municipal agreement flexible facilities program. Aaron.
Thank you, Paul. On page 31 of your packet, you'll see a memo that I prepared with the attached flexible facility program agreement. I'm just going to summarize that memo. So I think actually last time we had a city council meeting, Henry had some questions about this grant and the status of the funding, and we had not yet received the state municipal agreement. At that meeting, we did a few days later, and it was brought to our attention that they added some language. You can see the language that was added in the 2 bullet points under background of that memo. Basically, it states that the funds awarded under the agreement are dependent on the availability of federal funding sources, and tries to, I guess, say that they will not be responsible if they do not receive federal funding. So in all honesty, after receiving that, made me certainly nervous before we had numerous conversations with Attorney Sorensen, who is with us tonight. So thank you, Steve, for attending. And I know he'll have some things right after this. But also I had conversations with Tamara Fabian and then also Angela Davis, section chief at the DOA, and was given some assurances that they are being told to proceed from the United States Treasury. They have signed agreements between the state and the federal government. They have been able to withdraw funds with that program since the recent executive orders. Also, I think that one of the more important things to note is that currently, in checking with Steve Sorensen, it would be illegal for those executive orders to have an impact on these direct funds, given that they were congressionally approved. That was one of the things that gave me the most confidence in moving forward. Throughout this whole time period, I've also been having similar conversations with City of New London Administrator and the City of Shawano. I think both of them are having similar conversations with their councils. I think New London already had theirs, actually. So far, I've not heard of anyone that is backing out of this agreement due to that language being added. However, we did want to be fully transparent. You guys did sign or approve this agreement in December. We just received it a couple weeks ago. And now because of this language was not expected, we wanted to bring it forward for transparency. So with that, before I kind of open it up for questions, Steve, I know you've been sitting here for a while, so I wanted to turn it over to you for any comments you have.
Yeah, all I can tell you is that since Aaron brought this up to me, I've done a lot of research regarding how the rest of the world is looking at this. And I will tell you that in January, there was some concern, but then you have to remember that later in the month, the president withdrew his executive order, and I was able to confirm that the withdrawal of the executive order does affect the programs that are under the ARPA umbrella, which is authorized funds, because his own legal team told him that he didn't have the authority to take funds that had already been allocated. There is, if you talk to the administration, some thoughts of delaying funds, but the areas that have been isolated, at least my internal sources in Washington are telling me, are being isolated. Our sanctuary cities are being looked at as far as any funds that would go to promote any of the anti-immigration programs that are being espoused by the president. But even there's thought that this is an issue that was behind closed doors, and it's not really going anywhere as far as the release of the funds that are available. The other thing that I think you should know that is important is the Department of Transportation is now headed up by Sean Duffy, and a lot of the funding that we're looking at is really under the auspices of the Department of Transportation, even though it seems like it shouldn't be. It should be coming out of Treasury or someplace else, but it really is money that the Transportation Department has to approve, and his office is assuring us that at least for projects for roads and for infrastructure, there is highly unlikely that any of those funds will be cut or will not be released. And I've also contacted the Johnson's office and Grothman's office. I didn't have anybody from, God, her name escapes me right now. Yeah, I should know her name as well as I know my own.
Tammy Baldwin.
Thank you. from Tammy's office, but I presume they'll get back to us with the same message that I got from the others, and that was they have no knowledge of any program that's not being funded that was already approved by Congress and was already part of the ARPA program. So I feel very confident. The other thing you should know is that language has been in those contracts, that the state has always said that if they don't get the money from the federal government, they're not going to give you any of their money. And remember that the administration, the Department of Administration, is only a pass-through organization, and their role is only to see that the funds are properly administered. Their role is not to decide whether funds can be released or not released. They basically have the role of saying, did you spend it correctly? Fill out this form so that we can submit it to Washington to show that you did fill it out correctly and you did do it. The thought was that cities didn't have the staffing available to do what the Department of Administration does as far as showing that the funds have properly used. And whether you want to agree with that or not, that was the object behind the Department of Administration being the funnel through which the funds travel. I can answer other questions if you have them. I will tell you it was an interesting discussion with several different people to get to this conclusion. But I am fairly confident, as, by the way, is the National Cities Association, and the Wisconsin League of Municipalities has not made a formal opinion one way or the other. And I talked to their staff, and they just say we'll have to take a wait and see. I don't know quite why they're not wanting to take a definitive position, but as of this last month, as of February, the debate has moved off the main stage. It's not the debate that it once was in January. I can tell you that from people in Washington that I've talked to. It's not the topic of the day. Funding for other efforts are the topics of the day, and that's not one of them.
The only thing I'll add to that is Mayor Smith, I know, has been in touch with me daily on this topic as we came to our conclusion after several days of these conversations. So, Mayor, do you have anything to add to that, everything that was said so far? Nope, you're muted.
Isn't that the way you guys want me? The only thing that I would add to that is that we added this as an agenda item for full transparency here. As Attorney Sorensen has said to us, the language really probably hasn't changed. They've just described it in more detail. So we did agree to this back in, I think it was October, Aaron, if I remember right, but back in the fall. So we're just bringing it forward again just to show you that they've added a couple bullet points to it, but really nothing has changed.
Are you ready for a motion?
Sure.
I'm
I
sorry.
did have a question. So it sounds like there's a pretty high probability that there won't be any changes. What happens if we do go forward with this and the topic of the day changes in Washington late fall and suddenly money dries up or it doesn't appear? Are we in a position to potentially borrow, or would we be looking at halting construction, or? I know that it's a hypothetical question that's very difficult to answer, but if we have our attorney here, I think that there's probably some degree of stress might not be the right word, but concern that this potentially could happen.
Yeah.
It's very small, but it's also a very large project. So
Aaron, maybe you can, and maybe you're going down that direction too, but maybe you could just explain to them how we receive a bill from a vendor, and then once we receive that bill, we submit that to the state of Wisconsin. They submit it to the federal government. And so we'll get paid as quickly as we submit those bills. I would say that we will have time, if this does happen, we will have time that we will not be too far in the hole as far as costs are concerned until the construction starts. So, and that would get us way into the summer before we would have any of those concerns, Corey, that you are suggesting. As kind of as a guinea pig, we're going to help me out, Aaron. What's the name of our Gerber?
Bernard Schober.
Yeah, Bernard Schobert. We're going to submit as soon as we receive an invoice from them. We're going to submit it immediately and then see how quickly we receive that bill. And that really is the only bill that we have right now. So we're going to use that, and we'll really have a good feel for everything once we see how the process that goes through.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And the other thing I would say is, like, Corey, when we first got this and we didn't go through all of our due diligence, I would say that, like, in the immediate aftermath of it, I was like, yeah, I mean, I was concerned. The mayor was concerned, and for a day or so, we were like, well, I don't know if we can do this. As we worked through the last 10, 11, 12 days, I think those assurances certainly came forward, and with, you know, Attorney Sorensen talking with the state, knowing that the state also said that if that were to happen, and I'm very, very, you know, they don't think it's legal to even happen, but if that were to happen, they have recourse that they can take to the federal government. I know Steve talked about recourse that we could take with the state. So I think it's just, there's a lot of avenues there, and Steve, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I think you have to recognize this money is already there. It's not like this is new money. It's money that's in Washington right now. It's theoretically earmarked. I mean, yeah, they may have to print it next week, but it's earmarked funds that are already there. It's not new money, so it's not a new program, or it's not something they have to find. And so under the basic rules, if they would pull that money after they promised, we would have an action against the state of Wisconsin, which would have an action against the federal government. And that's been discussed by several communities who really think they are going to be cut off on certain projects because they're very anti some of the administrative concepts. But even those people have been told that money's there. Just don't ask for new money, because that's the message they're getting. But the current money is there. So I think the probability, if you would suggest, there's a lot of political reasons it's going to work too. You got to remember, Wisconsin's a swing state. We're going to get our money. I'll go on the limb. We're going to get our money. I mean, yeah, we could have nuclear war. We could have all kinds of things. I mean, you know, this is like going to a classroom and going the what ifs. But I don't think that in reality you need to worry about this.
And I think, Corey, like, we didn't want to assume, we knew the feeling we got in the first day or so. We didn't want to assume that here in one conversation that you guys were going to feel the exact same way that we did over the course of 10 days after doing all the research. So hence why Attorney Sorensen's here. And everything.
Yeah, I think the probability is pretty high, but I just wanted to ask. Because,
yeah, good question.
I mean,
And it's really the same probability of anything that you look for the state or federal government for money. They could do it anytime if something tragic would happen.
Colin, did you have a question?
Yeah, your statements and how I understood it was that it's our feeling that the federal government is obligated to give this money to the Department of Administration here in Wisconsin, and that's
They're
already
obligated to give it to the city of Waupaca through the Department of Administration.
okay. So you're saying that part's, and that was my question. If I'll finish it. It was my understanding that the Department of Treasury is obligated to do this through a congressional appoint. But my question is, Governor Evers gave a grant for this. Is that part obligated as well? Which is to say, if there's some sort of political pressure put on him to disperse this money in a different manner, is that a possibility? Is that question clear?
Yeah, well, as to any federal money, Governor Evers can't say yes or no. As to any state money, he can't say yes or no if it was approved by the legislature. The only thing that can be done by the administration is they can slow things down. They can sit on money. They can sit on paperwork. They can, they can delay things out. But ultimately, the money's going to be there.
Okay.
I mean, that's the political pressure would be to talk about it and say about it and slow it down, but it's all rhetoric for the most part.
So you're saying all the way to our door, the money is committed?
This money is committed,
This
yes.
money. Okay, thank you. That was basically my question.
Anybody else?
The question I have on it too, I don't think the money won't be there, but if it is delayed, this is a really relatively short time frame, the commitment being construction completed by by September 30th of 2026. So if that funding is delayed, how is that going to affect the project? Can that end date be pushed out beyond that, even if the funding is delayed or if it's on time? I always thought it was a really, really short time frame.
Yeah, and another good question. So what I would say about that is actually probably a little known fact, this program, the money associated with this program was actually committed from the federal government to the state of Wisconsin in like 2022. So it's been a long, long time. I would say that we think it's the, as we understand, it's the exact same likelihood of it getting delayed as it not coming. And if it were, I would say delayed, and then we missed timelines because of things that were out of our control, I think we would have cause to go after the state go after the federal government. Same, I think it's all the same exact scenario and the same likelihood. Steve, am I wrong on that?
No, that'd be exactly right. And again, the state's responsible for doing things in a timely manner. We could sue the state if we wanted to. I don't think I'd recommend that, but I don't see any delays. I can guarantee that the Wisconsin administration wants to move the money as fast as they possibly can because they want to take credit for the money getting here. So, I mean, yeah, I'm a political being, I will admit that. And so I don't see any problem with that. The problem is the rhetoric. That's the problem, and how people talk. But as long as you get your bills in on time, that's probably the biggest thing the city has to do. Make sure the minute you got that bill, you get it, because that's going to keep you ahead of the game. Because a lot of other people are in this game too. And a lot of people got scared. And so a lot of people are doing the same thing we're doing, is saying, let's get this bill in right away. And so that may, but that's good, because, you know, yeah, enough said.
All right. Dimitri.
I'd just like to add that just because the president might not have the authority to withdraw funding from that has been approved by Congress doesn't mean that he hasn't already done that, which he did on January 27th. He issued an order to temporarily pause all activities related to disbursement of federal financial assistance, which led to states suing because there were Medicaid payments being withheld and some nonprofit organizations losing access to federal funds. And the federal judges temporarily issued a restraining order blocking the funding freeze. But then more recently, the Supreme Court got involved and overrode the federal court's decision to prohibit those funds from being distributed. So it's happening. Whether or not we'll be able to get the funding, I don't think is a for sure thing.
Yeah, the critical difference here is that's new funding. That's new funding for Medicare and Medicaid programs. That's money that is coming through the current applications. These are people applying for money, and he's stopping that. This isn't old money. This isn't 2022 money. That's new money. Yeah, if you were getting, as I've said this before, if you're getting new money, what's been going on in Washington right now is relevant. That's very relevant. So if you were putting in a request for a grant money for a brand new police training program, and they said, no, we're not funding any more police training programs, that's the kind of thing that those lawsuits that are out there on Medicare and Medicaid, those were, well, you promised us you were going to do this, but that wasn't funding that was ever allocated. It's new funding because it's new Medicare applications. It's new requests. It's to pay for grandma who's in the care facility, and now we're not getting the money from the federal government because that comes through the state because the state distributes that money, and that's the programs you're talking about, and that's why and that's all judicial. But I want you to know that's very, very different programs for money that Congress approved many years ago and has been sitting in these ARPA funds waiting to be used. The other thing you have to remember is if you have a grant for ARPA funds and you don't spend them, if you don't get this done, you got to give it back. And that's part of what's going on too, is some people are sitting on funds in Washington that they haven't used that will come back into the administration. because they won't use them, because they'll be afraid.
Okay, anybody else? Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the state municipal agreement for the flexible facility program, recognizing the language that has been added to Article 6.
Second.
Moved by Dexter, second by Veliker, to approve the state municipal agreement flexible facilities program. Any more discussion?
I don't know if it's appropriate, but could we add the caveat that if we do not get a timely reimbursement on this first reimbursement, that we bring it back and kind of see where we're at?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I know staff would be, I'm sure, proactive in that, but just make sure it's in the motion. I don't know if that's appropriate or not.
Could that be extended, that if at any time our funding is not reimbursed, that we reevaluate, not just the first time, but, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, and again, this is just my personal feeling, is this is a great project. And let's just, if we get into that situation, we're not going to stop halfway through the design. I think we'd want to, as a group, complete the design and then sit on it and figure out if we can fund it or go after some other grant pools. So I think the first, if it's Colin's motion, I mean, if it's any reimbursement, that makes sense. But I think we're going to be at a point, at a juncture, we're going to, before we pull the trigger on bidding this out, and I think once the die is cast and we're getting our money reimbursed, I think that'll pretty much tell us we're okay.
And I think,
So,
go ahead.
can I just comment quickly on what Henry's comment is, because it's, and, Steve's not there to interpret, our motions and stuff like that, but the motion is to approve this agreement. And so by adding something to your motion, you would have to add that to the agreement also. So if you wanted something in there for wording, like you said, we're going to stop, and we certainly can tell you that as a staff level, we're not getting paid. We'll bring it back to you. But if you want that in a formal motion, that would have to be a whole separate motion.
Okay. Well, all right. So the motion, I've seconded the motion as was just described, so it's okay.
Any more discussion?
I mean, I think if there were issues, you guys would report back to us
Right.
anyways. I would hope so. So, I mean, I don't know if we need a motion
Right.
to
I agree.
The only
have
thing
you
I-
come back if there's issues.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, yes, is to Henry's point and to Dimitri's point, we would have from a staff standpoint, there'd be no other option. I mean, we'd be coming back here if that was the case, and so, yes.
Okay. Barb, roll call vote.
Sure. Eric Halverson,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Corey Nagel,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
aye.
Henry Veliker.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you, Barb.
Yep.
Item 3 is adoption of the 2025 City of Waupaca Emergency Response Plan. Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the discussion on the last item. This item's on page 67 of your packet. I have a memo here. Just a quick summary. This is something that is a part of our strategic plan to make sure that we kind of always improve our preparedness. We had a 2016 emergency response plan that was outdated, had a lot of outdated information. It's something that Councilmember Halverson and myself and other city administrators really across the county have been talking about updating these plans for a couple of years. I think one of the things that pushed us, two things. I think one is the creation of our emergency management committee, and then two, I think the event that we had recently with the gas. Actually, we were able to use the draft plan that we had. It wasn't fully complete, but it was very useful in doing so. And we're able to meet as a core group, myself, Eric, Zach from County Emergency Management, Chief Krager, Chief Waller, and Justin, and able to kind of get this. This is more of a base plan There are attachments that can go with this plan that you'll see attached to the memo. And those attachments are meant to be added at any time and updated, so we don't have to come forward with a separate approval every time we add an attachment. So we are asking City Council to approve the draft base plan that is here in the packet. And Eric, you're the expert on this, so certainly want to hand it to you if you have any other comments at all.
Well, I could go on forever and explain a lot about this, so I guess I can, and I will. No, I'm just kidding. The base plan on here, this is an all hazards plan, and it was very functional in the gas leak that occurred in February. It was very basic. This doesn't tell you how to do things. The original plan back 15, 20 years ago in the city of Waupaca was an emergency operations plan, which kind of set how you did things. This does not. It identifies the functional areas and who's going to do those. The police department has their own standard operating procedures on what the fire department does. So this just identifies 15 areas right now. Another one with cybersecurity coming up. It's a living document. It's going to change. It's going to change often. This follows the county plan. So we update the county plan in my daytime job. We do this annually, and as we update that, the city won't have to. There's a lot of references from the city plan to the county plan. Our county plan also falls underneath the state plan. And the biggest part of this is that funding sources that may be available, as we discussed in the previous section here, we don't know what funding sources are going to be looking like, but it opens up the opportunity for the city to apply. And in the past, the city has received, through various funding sources, quite a bit of money after disaster. So it's really important that we have this in place, and I think we had a really, really good outcome with our meeting the other day, and got a lot of things in place. So if you ever have any questions on it, you want more detail on it, reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to do that. And I'll keep it short with that.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks.
Any more discussion? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the 2025 City of Waupaca Emergency Response Plan.
Moved by Peterson, second by Olson, to approve the 2025 City of Waupaca Emergency Response Plan. Any more discussion? Barb, roll call vote, please.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Eric Helverson,
Aye.
Henry Veliker,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Corey Nagel.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you, Barb.
Welcome.
Item 4 is a request to close city streets for the 2025 Waupaca Area Triathlon. Aaron, it's you again.
Okay, thank you, Paul. This year, the triathlon will be held on Friday, August 15th, which is the kids' triathlon, and then Saturday, August 16th. This is the 24th annual event. All of the city streets remain the same as a typical year. There was I know there was a year or two there where some routes had to be rerouted because of road work. That is not the case. This will be the same as last year and the year before. You can see the maps here on what city streets are impacted. Just looking for approval. This is an annual ask.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Somebody want to make a motion in a second?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Veliker, second by Dykstra, to approve the request to close city streets for the 2025 Waupaca Area Triathlon. Any more discussion? Barb, roll call vote.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Eric Helverson,
Aye.
Henry Veliker,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Corey Nagel,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you, Barb. Item 5 is a Public Works mower purchase. Justin.
Yep, thank you. This starts on page 122 of the packet, goes to 126. Memo on front, followed by a quote from our source well contact, and then a couple pictures of our existing mower that we're looking to phase out. So The one that we have currently is about 10 years old. It's a Hustler Super Z. It has roughly 1,300 hours on it, again, like 10 years, and that's matches our replacement schedule. So we try to get about 10 years and over 1,000 hours on these things. This one is definitely giving us signs that we should replace it. Our maintenance cost each year has jumped quite a bit. We would expect annual maintenance to be about 300 or less with just kind of the standard oil change, belts, greasing, maybe a few minor replacements here and there. As you can see in the last few years, it's been well over 300, sometimes double of that. And what I was told was that's mostly just oil. So it's come time to replace. So last time we replaced this, or we actually bought this one, was in 16. And at the time we saw 3 proposals, and you can see the range in there of roughly 10, 5, and all really close. And now we're utilizing the Sourcewell account. We're doing this just to be efficient. It's called out in our procurement ordinance that we're allowed to do it. And I just showed those numbers and then, of course, compared it to today's numbers through the Sourcewell. And as you go through the years, that's an increase of 3% each year. So I took from that using the Sourcewell is very cost effective. A 3% increase even through the COVID years is a good solid number. So the way we budgeted for this mower is 3 ways, from general obligation, which streets department, water and sewer. So this is a mower that basically is owned by the street department, but they do mow for various parts in the city. So at the wells, the lift stations, public works facilities, sometimes front lawn at City Hall. We do work with Park and Rec in their mowing at times, so there is some swapping over of duties. However, since this is used at the water and sewer, they're splitting up 3 ways, and you can see the breakdown at the bottom of the memo there of which funds go where. Finally, when we get the new mower, which only has about a month lead time, we'll put the old mower on surplus, and we're hoping to get about $5,000. This was at the Water and Sewer Board earlier today. They did approve or recommend the council approve that with respect to the water and sewer revenue bonds. And then, of course, tonight, looking for council to make the final approval with the breakdown to the various funds at the last page of my memo.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Any questions? Discussion? Motion?
Move to approve the purchase of a riding mower from Hustler through Sourcewell to be sourced out from the general, what was it? General obligation funds, the sewer utility and the water utility, not to exceed $16,375.
Second.
Moved by Perchatsky, second by Peterson, to approve the purchase of a mower, of Hustler Super Z mower with a Sourcewell contract with funding not to exceed $15,376. Any more discussion? Barb, roll call vote, please.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Henry Veliker,
Aye.
Eric Halverson,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Corey Nagel,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you, Barb.
Yep.
Item 6 is license report number 1711, operators licenses or bartenders licenses. Any issues, Barb?
No.
Okay. Need a motion and a second to approve.
Move to approve license report number 1711.
Second.
Moved by Nagel, second by who?
Paul.
Second by Hagan to approve license report number 1711. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We have no issues or project discussions, which leads us to communications and recommendations of the mayor. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thanks, Paul. Just real quick here, just a reminder to city planning commissioners and city council, we do not have a city planning commission meeting scheduled for tomorrow. That has been canceled, and we will have one for sure in April as we build up the agenda in that month. And then just a note, I know I'm here remotely, but I'm also watching on Facebook too here, where it's Facebook Live, and I'd appreciate it, and most of you did tonight, but as you speak, make sure that you get up close to the microphone and please speak into that. Otherwise, the audience is not hearing what you're saying. And want to make sure that we give them a good package here. So otherwise, have a great night. Stay warm. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Hagan, second by Elson, that we adjourn until our next regular council meeting on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, subject to call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:31. Thank you.